you're not at the Chain Theater. I know everyone goes there confusing with the stairs, but you made it! You're here! Happy Women's History Month! You're here! Various performance events almost every week, and now I'm in grad school. I'm going to be graduating from Columbia in May. But yeah, so people have been asking, oh, Christine, when are you going to do another one of your events? You know, it's been so long, Okay, yes, let me do one more of these before I graduate. I haven't done one all year, and I want to bring some different storytellers together, do something uplifting, there are going to be a range of stories tonight. You are not just going to hear funny stories. There might be some difficult stories. Trigger warnings abound, content warnings abound. So brace yourself for that. Some things might be a little harder to hear than others, but you will laugh. I promise you will laugh too. You will smile. There will be joy. That's the whole point of this, joy. Yeah, speaking of which, I just want to share a quick story before we really get started, just to warm you up, about my dear Jenny. So my third year, she's a woman I really, really look up to. Somebody I still look up to, and she passed away actually last spring, so it's been almost a year since that time, and this is a tribute to her, to Jenny Parks of Dinwiddie, Virginia. So it was my third year of college, and I was stressed out. I needed money so badly. The expenses just kept piling up, and I had this long list of things I was not going to do to make that money, right? And I just had my immigrant mom's voice in my head. Oh, well, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. I know. No, Mika. Oh, hala, Dios mío, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that. No, out of the question. I had passed the same flyer in the art building on campus like 5 times for a good time called Jenny. And I finally did it. And that evening, once I mustered up the courage, I ended up at the home of my future clown pimp. Now, my mom always said, like, you shouldn't be working for other people. You shouldn't be working for children, for families, getting yourself dirty, right? So I knew, it was that voice. She wasn't going to want me to do this job. If I was going to work with kids, it was going to be like tutoring child cancer survivors. It wasn't going to be children's birthday parties. But when I got to Jenny's house, I just immediately felt at ease. This woman was so wacky, all over the place, and she was an art teacher by day and a children's party wrangler the rest of the time. She lived by herself. The house was just exploding with wigs and princess gowns and superhero costumes, Star Wars figurines, because she had a whole bedroom just for her Star Wars stuff. A real character, right? So she sat me down on her casting couch, that's what she called it, and all I had to do was show her my binder of little drawings, because she wanted to see, oh, well, can you paint faces, right? Because always at these birthday parties, there are parents who want face painting. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I don't need to show you how to use the face paint. But what about balloon animals? Can you do balloon animals? This is where I started to tense up again. This is where I had my mom's voice in my head again. Oh, well, you can't pop a balloon in your face, you'll go blind. You don't want to lose your vision, right? You're in art school, you can't, no. So Jenny can see that I'm all like balled up again, right? We were having a good time until she starts bringing out the balloons. She's like, it's normal to pop a couple, like everyone like pops the first couple. You'll be fine. I pop more than a couple. I just keep popping and popping. I'm not good at this. Granted, it's my first time. But this woman's an art teacher, so she looks at me after, like balloon number 7. She's like, you can do this. And I believe her. There's just so much conviction in her. I believe her. And I make the fucking dog, the little puppy. And it's fine. It doesn't blow up in my face. I don't go blind. And my mom's voice has just disappeared from my head. The first month of balloon parties and face painting parties, princess parties, clown parties, all of it is fantastic. There are some weird dads, but I make $45 an hour. And I get my mileage reimbursed, my gas reimbursed. I get pizza at the end of pretty much every party, cake at pretty much every party. For a college kid, wonderful gig. Yeah. Then, at the end of that blissful month, Jenny sets me up in this neighborhood that my mom has always said you're not supposed to go there. Stay away from that neighborhood. It's in the local news for a reason. It's very violent, blah, blah, blah. I need to be a little good girl, safe places, go to college, go to like 3 squeaky clean restaurants, and that's my life. But I need the money, right? And I'm already doing this job that I know my mom's not gonna approve of. So if I go to this neighborhood, what difference will it make? Jenny, again, she can tell that I'm nervous. I'm a nervous person. But she says it's daylight. You don't have to worry about it. You're going to be home well before dark. It's a kid's birthday party. You'll be fine. So I'm driving there, still pretty anxious about it, all the way there. I get to this public park, get to this little picnic shelter. I'm in my full clown getup. I have the balloons, I have the face paint. It is just the mother, who is my age, and her baby, like literal infant, and the birthday child who's like 4. There are no other children. And on my call sheet, it says that there are supposed to be 20. 20 kids. I know I'm not the toughest person, and from the car, I can already tell that this girl is tougher than I am, right? I mean, she has these kids. She's definitely lived life more than I have at this point. But I have to get to that car, to that party, get out of the car. I have my appointed time, gotta make that money, gotta do it. So I go up to her, I'm polite, I greet the kids, do the little like clown thing for the kids. But when there's a moment that the kids have their balloons and I can talk to the mom semi-privately off to the side, I'm like, yeah, where are the kids? Oh, well, can you come back later? Can you come back in like an hour? An hour? You paid for 1 hour, so are you going to pay for 2 hours? Because that's the deal. You want me to come later, you have to pay for that time, right? Of course, she doesn't want to pay for that time. She wants to pay for 1 hour of the clown, not 2 hours of the clown. And this is where I have my mom's voice in my head again. It's like, I shouldn't be in this neighborhood. I shouldn't be in this tough place. I'm not cut out for this. I'm a suburban kid. What's going on? Why am I even here? I should be tutoring those cancer survivors. I stand up to the lady because I just have Jenny's voice in my head next, because I always have to counter mom's voice with Jenny's voice. And Jenny would always tell me that I could do it. There's not, oh no, you're not going to do that. Oh no, that's not good for you. Oh no. With Jenny, it's, okay, well, here's a plan, common sense, you're prepared, go do it. You can do it. So I have to tell this woman, no, I'm going to do the party now. And I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to play with your kids, and I'm going to make the balloons, and I'll paint their little faces. And if that means that I make 20 balloons for the birthday child, that's what I'm going to do. And that is almost what ends up happening. I get to like balloon 15, and then some of the other kids start showing up, just as it's about time for me to leave, right? So I've done the singing, I've done the dancing, I've done all the stuff that she paid for her 2 little kids. and then the tail, like the trickle in of the first few kids who finally get there. And then I get my money and I go. And really, I have Jenny to thank for that whole experience, because if I didn't have her voice in my head telling me that I could do it, I probably would have caved in. I probably would have been a people pleaser, pushover, and just listened to that woman, right? But dear Jenny taught me to stand up for myself and to defy my Latin mother, which is a tough thing to do. All right, enough about me, enough about clowns, enough about Jenny. Yeah, rest in peace, Jenny. I love you, Jenny. Next up, we have Bridget Randolph. Give it up for Bridget. Yes, this is where I keep throwing up.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about my roommate. Who here has a roommate? It's New York, we all have them. Who has ever had a roommate here? So you all know, there are lots of different kinds of roommates. We've all had them. I had the one that was the Irish guy that liked to bake Guinness beer cake and take people on walks to walk the subway line all day on a Saturday. There was the corporate lawyer who would come home really late every night and make himself a martini or 3. We called him Count because with his tall, skinny frame and his nocturnal habits, he sort of seemed like a vampire. And then there's the corporate blood-sucking as well. And there was the Spanish girl who told me when she moved in that she was a professional chef, but somehow managed to melt the knobs on my stove because she was cooking chicken on an open flame. But my current roommate's my favorite. His name is Ty. I have known him for about 10 years and we've lived together for 6. We like to watch TV together. He always lets me pick the show. He's very snuggly and he'll sit on my lap, which is fun. When I cook, sometimes he comes and asks for some of the food, and I always like to share a little bit if it's safe food for him. He does have some stomach issues, so, it's not so great when he vomits on my carpet. But now I've lived with him long enough, I've started to recognize the noise that starts to happen right before that, and so I can usually get him to an easier to clean spot. But honestly, anytime I start to feel annoyed with him, I just look into those big yellow eyes and all's forgotten. Oh, I should have mentioned Ty's a cat. He's a little gray tabby cat. I never thought I'd have a cat. Growing up, I was very afraid of animals of all kinds. I didn't take horseback riding lessons like my sister because the horses were horrifying to me. I was afraid of everybody's dog. Even the little yappy ones at my parents' friend's house had to be put into the bedroom when I came over because it would just freak me out too much. And my only real exposure to cats was my grandmother's cat, Ashley, who was about 50 million years old. She hated kids. And she had long gray fur and she stayed in the basement. And so it was always very scary to me anytime I had to go down to the basement, because you never knew in the dark when you might see those eyes just sort of looking at you before she'd disappear into the darkness. And frankly, I'm sorry to say it was sort of a relief to me when she died. So, over the years though, I did start to appreciate animals more and even really enjoy spending time with them when I visit my friends or family, a lot of whom did have very nice pets, sweet dogs, mixed bag with cats, but it was always fun to sort of get them to come over and be friendly to me and then give them back at the end of the day and go home. And I always said, I'm never gonna have a pet. I'm happy to hang out with your pets, but it's too much responsibility. I'm an avoidant attachment style, I can't do it. But I did meet Ty when he was a kitten because my brother, who was going to school in Alabama and working as a lifeguard at the pool, had someone come in one day who had this kitten, and she was like, do you know anyone who would take him? And my other sister, who was at the time also living there, already had a couple dogs and a cat, and my brother said, sure, I'll take him. I think my sister will be happy to have him. So he took him over there. He immediately freaked out and hid under the couch. They did not find him for several hours. They were going up and down the street calling his name. My sister actually named him Tiberius, which is an imposing name for a small kitten. Never suited him, so we very quickly all just started calling him Ty. And over time, whenever I would visit her, he really took a liking to me. He would come and sit on my lap and sort of snuggle with me when I would be in the bedroom. He'd come and sleep in the room with me. He would sit with me when I played video games or was reading books or watching TV. That was very flattering for me. And then one day my sister and her husband were moving to another state and they couldn't bring the cats with them for the move, so they asked my mom to watch their cats while they were in this transition. She ended up watching them for about 2 years. At that point she said, do you think you might take your cats back? But my sister said, oh, we actually really don't think we can. We have a friend who's very allergic. It's just not going to work for us. You could keep them if you want. My mom's like, I can't have 2 cats. And so they reached out to me. They said, would you like to take Ty? We know that you are close. And I said, ooh, I want to help, but I always said I can't do that. I'm not a pet person. And they were like, okay, don't worry, we'll look and see if any of our friends can take him, But then I had to go down to my mom's in Virginia, pick up some stuff from the house. And sure enough, that last night I was there, he slept in the room with me. And I woke up that morning, and there's his little face, sitting on my shoulder. He just looks at me, and he takes his little paw, and he just puts it on my cheek. And I said, okay, I can't let you go to a stranger or a shelter. And I called my sister, I said, I'm gonna take him. So since then, he's been on a lot of adventures with me. We've moved across the country multiple times. So he's been went from an Alabama cat to a Virginia cat to a Seattle cat to a Texas cat again to a Oregon and back to the East Coast. We have lived in little studio apartments together. He's lived in houses with big yards. We survived a raccoon biting him where I had to clean his wound in his back for 2 weeks, night and day. And he was surprisingly well behaved about that part, but really hated that he couldn't go outside. And yeah, he had a little girlfriend cat at one point who he would go visit across the courtyard. She was an indoor cat, so it was a doomed romance. They would go and touch noses through the sliding glass door. It was very sweet, and it got me to meet my neighbor, who was a lovely older lady named Trudy. So we've been through a lot together. I remember one time, just something had happened. I was upset. I was crying, and my little friend came. He saw what was going on. He came and did his little paw on the cheek. And over the years, our relationships just continued to develop, although I will say he's not my child. Nothing feels stranger to me than when the vet says, "Are you Ty's mom?" No. In cat years, he's 50. So I call him my grumpy middle-aged roommate instead. But even though he's not my child, he is my friend, and really he's more like my family now. And honestly, my chosen family. And specifically, he chose me, so that's even more more special in a way. And to me, that's one of the most meaningful relationships you can have. So thank you for letting me share that with you today. That's my time.
Sherri Rosen. I am keeping this lineup sheet in the place we all store most important
I was groomed to please men at a very, very young age. And I was told that men were really much more important than women. And I even wanted to go to drama school at Emerson in Boston. And my parents said, no. And they also said, when you go out on a date, you never show the date how smart you are. You're just there to please, to look pretty, and if you don't like the gift they give you, you don't say a word. Fast forward many years later, a grandma. Thank you very much. And what grandmas look like then, God bless them. And what they look like now, very different. But now I'm told I should be invisible, that my wisdom doesn't count, and that I should not like sex, and God forbid it should be sex with a younger guy. So I actually got married at the very young age of 21. And my husband at the time, Leonard, I came from Lynn, he came from Chelsea. So the first year was great. It was really great. And because we were both trying to get used to New York. And after the first year, in my naive cloud, I began to see and understand if you're living with somebody in a relationship and your value systems are different, you are fucked. And that's what I was beginning to learn. So 8 years later, and 2 sons, which turned out to be the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I say to my husband, I said, look, our marriage is a disaster. We need help. Let's go into therapy. The best part are the 2 sons. He said to me, no. He said, let's all live under one roof. You go your way, I go my way, and I say, no way. And then, I didn't think, to this day, I don't think he thought I would ever leave, that I ever had the courage to leave. He didn't know me. He had no idea. I didn't know me either. So I decided to go into therapy myself. And I found a great woman, really supportive. And the first thing she said to me is, Sherri, get stuff in your name, for God's sakes. Credit cards, checking accounts, banking accounts, savings accounts. Just get everything in your name. Who knew? Who knew? Until the shit hit the fan, then you learn. So I did what she told me to do. And while I was doing this, I always tried to emulate my mom and my sister's dressing. They dressed beautifully, but very conservative, and that wasn't me. So Sherri was trying to find herself. So all of a sudden, I changed from brown hair to red, and then I started dressing in gypsy dresses and gypsy skirts and blouses, big jewelry. I look in that mirror and I go, yes, I like what I see, yes. So then the therapist says to me, okay, I want you, oh God, I want you to start dating other people before you leave Leonard. Oh my God. I went on 31st Street. So I go in there, and it's mainly men. There's a few women. So I kind of slide in, and the guy that gets up, he goes, I have violent sex, and I love violent sex, and I know I need to change that. Okay, oh my God. The next guy that gets up, I do bad things to women. I know I have to change. Holy shit, I know I have to get out of here. So at the break, you never saw anybody take off so fast. Run to the subway, run to my apartment, and I get home, and it was really good that I went. You know why? I'm no fucking sex addict. I was just having the fucking time of my life. I was starting to find out who Sherri is. Thank you.
We have Rosemary Cipriano. Woo!
I'm getting married on Tuesday. Give me all the divorce stories, okay? This is great for my anxiety.
Don't listen.
I love running. Ugh, I hate to admit it because I feel like runners are assholes. But I love running. I started running in college because I realized that when I was running, the endorphins would fill the tiny holes my clinical depression would leave behind. It was huge for me. It was part of my mental health. So there was this one day, a couple of years ago, I went for a run in Central Park like I always do. And while I was running, all of a sudden I felt like my left leg was going to just fall off my body. And I looked down and it was still intact, thank God. But I thought I just pulled a muscle, like you always do. I just pulled a muscle, I'm fine. I'm just gonna limp on home. The limping did not go away, and it slowly got worse. Until I learned that I was born with something called hip dysplasia. Anyone's dog have it? People love to tell me how their dog has hip dysplasia. Like, who is your Skippy's doctor? Because I need one. Yeah, I had hip dysplasia. It's a developmental disorder. You're born with it. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's a mobility disorder. Usually it's something that is found within the first couple of months of you being born. You know, they find it, they fix it, and you're off to the races, literally. It's not found 29 years later. And no one, I still to this day have no idea why it took so long to find. But I just thought if I just go to PT and do it really well, be the A+ student in PT, I'll be fine. That did not work out. Slowly but slowly, it got worse and worse until walking to the supermarket just a couple blocks away from my apartment was too difficult for me. And I tried to avoid using a cane as long as humanly possible. Like, I was walking around like Fat Joe in the early 2000s, way too long like that, way too long. Eventually, I did start using a cane, and I just felt so invisible. I felt very alone. Like, I would go on the subway and no one would give me their seats. And I was like, I had better luck faking being pregnant, you know? We've all done it, please, okay? I hated the cane. And my friends, they tried to get me to like it. They said, Rosemary, with the cane, you have so much swagger. That's not swagger, that's early onset arthritis. I hated that. And eventually, after months of this pain, I was like, I think I need to see a hip replacement surgeon, because no doctor would take me. Every time I would call a doctor and say I had hip dysplasia, the receptionist would say, "How old's the baby?" The baby's 29. So I went to this hip replacement surgeon, and his name was Dr. Roselle. I highly suggest that's his real name, give him free advertising. He was a very stern man. He didn't laugh. He didn't smile. He just knew what he could do. You know, he was cocky. And I feel like you want your surgeon to be cocky. You know, you want your surgeon to look at you and be like, I've done worse. I've dealt with so much worse. He dealt with people who were younger than me, older than me, with way worse hip dysplasia. I was like, this man is going to like change my life. And he looked, one look at my x-ray, and he said, yeah, you are arthritic. And you are absolutely a candidate for hip replacement. This was the day after my 30th birthday. So no one can really tell me that they had it worse. No. I think I win. A month later, I got a hip replacement surgery. I had a surgery. I woke up that day and I laid out all my clothes the night before because I knew that I wouldn't be able to focus on anything. I put on a sports bra that was 2 sizes too big because that's the only way they're comfortable. I had this billowy tank top. I had black yoga pants that somehow survived the 2010s. And I put on my running sneakers for the first time in a year and a half. And I went to the hospital. My mom came with me and my fiance, Kyle. And my mom uses a walker. She had her own hip replacement before, so now we're sisters in that. And when I went to go check in, I said, "Hi, I'm Rosemary. I'm here for my hip replacement surgery." The woman looks up at me, looks over to my mom, and goes, "What's her name and date of birth?" No, it is me, the young person with the cane. This isn't because I feel fancy today. I actually need this. And soon we sorted it out, and she realized that I was actually the one who needed the surgery. And that's when I started kind of internally really freaking out. So I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here right now. This feels like I'm jumping the gun, right? And I walked to the pre-op with the nurse, and the nurse turns to me and says, "You walk really good." It's adrenaline. Like I started second guessing whether I should even be there. And then I walk into pre-op, and all of these women who are 20, 30 years older than me turn to look at me, and they do not want me there. I'm infiltrating on their space, you know? Like they don't know that I need to be there. One woman even went to my nurse and said, "Let me know when you're done with her." They did not want me there. And I started to realize, like, maybe they'll open me up and be like, "Oh, she's not ready for this yet. Maybe we just, like, wait until it's more arthritic, perhaps. Or we're not going to do the surgery today." I was mentally preparing myself for being told, no, it's actually not going to happen, and you're going to have to live with this pain. So I walk over to the actual operating room, which you're not supposed to do. Like, you're supposed to be wheeled over, you know? I see some people, like, they're like, what the? No. I was like, oh, I could do it. I could walk. So I walked myself to the OR, and we opened the door, and it's that big, bright, white room with all the machines everywhere. We all know and love. I sat down on the table. The anesthesiologist says, "I'm about to give you your medicine. You're about to feel really good." I'm like, "Please hit me with it. I need this." And soon I started feeling that like woozy high feeling. And there was a male nurse in front of me, and I just kind of conked out onto him. And I said, "Don't tell my fiance." Like he was gonna hit on a 30-year-old getting a hip replacement. They laid me down on the table, and it felt like being laid on like a bed of roses. I was so happy. And the last thing I said to this room of doctors and nurses was, "Hey, while you guys are down there, can you switch out my IUD too?" And then I was out. And I fell asleep to the OR, erupting in laughter, which for a comedian, I mean, there is nothing better. I killed and then I went to sleep. When I woke up to all these people talking and tugging at my legs and whatnot, and the first thing I said was, "Did they do it?" Because somehow I had still convinced myself, they put me to sleep, they put me on but maybe they didn't actually do it. And you know how nurses are, they like only yell. So she was like, yes, honey, they did your surgery, you had a hip replacement. Like, thank you, I'm so sorry for asking. My nurse came over, her name was Eugene, and she was 100% my age, which was again another clusterfuck of emotions. And now this woman who is my peer now has to take care of me in this post-op situation. And she puts the walker next to my bed. She says, okay, time to get up and walk. Like, okay, let's see how this feels. And I put my feet over, I put them on the ground, I stand up, and my left leg is a little bit higher than my right one, a little bit longer because of all the inflammation and all those things that they don't like really tell you beforehand. You just kind of experience. So go down, you'll be fine, let's just start walking. And I felt like I was walking with a robot leg for a bit. And I walked by all the women that saw me in pre-op, and they're all having like coffee and cookies. I was like, why can't I do that? I would like to relax as well. And she walks me over to the bathroom. In the bathroom, she puts so much toilet paper around the toilet bowl that I didn't even like feel it, which was so great, great nurse, you know? I sit down, she stays there in case I fall, and she turns around, and I pee, and I pee, and I pee, until I do more than pee. And I start actively shitting in front of this girl who is my age, and I just say out loud, oh no. Oh no, and she turns around, she goes, you're having a bowel movement! Yeah! And she starts jumping up and down and clapping. I'm like, Eugene, I don't need this right now. I'm so confused as to how old I am. I don't need this. Eventually I stopped, I wiped, I get up, and she goes, let me check, which is just the worst thing anyone could ever tell you, okay? And I finally left that hellish bathroom, and my surgeon comes up to me at my bed, and he says, everything went great. Everything went exactly as planned. You are going to be fine. You are going to be running in a couple of months. However, I could not switch out your IUD. And he smiled and he laughed. I said, thank you so much, Dr. Roselle. I knew I would crack you immediately. I am now a year and a half post-op, and I have run so much. I'm doing all the major movement groups. I'm walking, I'm running, I'm fucking, I'm doing it all. It's so great. But I think this entire experience just made me realize, like, how we don't pay attention to people who are disabled. How we just kind of like look the other way and like they're not part of our society. We don't give them our seats. We don't do any of that. And I just know that one day if we're lucky, we're all going to be disabled one day. You know, if we're lucky to grow old enough to have an issue, we're going to be. And that's actually a privilege. It's kind of beautiful to think about. And I know that when that day comes and I'll have to get another hip replacement, I'll know that they'll be able to switch out my IUD at the same time. Thank you so much.
Both are wonderful things. Okay, next we have Ronna Levy! Great!
Last year I followed Rosemary. We were in the same festival, and I followed her with another broken hospital story, but not today, not today. So I had a childhood friend, and we lost contact, and I hadn't seen her in 25 years. And so I'm sitting in Chi-Chi's in Santa Monica, and I'm waiting for my childhood friend. And I'm nervous and I'm excited. Now, her name is Randy. I first met Randy in the first grade. When the kids we were all lined up waiting for the school bus. And I see this little girl and she's looking at me, and she's got bangs and long brown hair, just like me. But she's looking at me and I see we're wearing the exact same coat. It's this faux brown suede coat with a leopard print collar. Only I see that she's wearing a faux brown suede beret with a leopard print pom-pom. And it looks looks really pretty and so grown up. I'm wearing, think of a fanny pack, flat, that's on top of your head that comes down and the straps tie into the chin. I'm wearing a blue and white hat like that, and it doesn't match my coat, and it looks like a baby hat. 6 years old, I already have low self-esteem. And she comes over to me, and she says, "Hi, my name is Randy. Maybe you could come to my house after school sometime." Why is she talking to me? Look at me. But soon enough, my mother's driving me to her house after school, and we're playing hopscotch and jacks, and we ride bikes, and we go to day camp together, we go to Hebrew school together. And Randy tells me that when she grows up, she wants to play the guitar and be a folk singer and move to Hollywood. So of course, when I grow up, I want to play the guitar and be a folk singer and move to Hollywood. Randy takes guitar lessons, I take guitar lessons. Except after a year, my parents make me stop and take piano lessons. So now there's a variety show in the town, and I see Randy, and she's wearing a striped mini skirt and go-go boots, and she's playing the electric guitar. She looks like she just stepped out of a Liverpool pub. And she sings "Good Lovin' by the Young Rascals." And I'm in my orange sweater with a matching orange pleated skirt. I look like a bag of Cheetos with penny loafers. And I'm playing a song from my piano book called Little Fingers Learn to Play. And I look at Randy, and she's so sophisticated, and these little fingers don't want to play. And I pretend to be sick, and my parents know I'm faking it, and they make me go out on stage and play, and I am mortified. But we're still friends. Get to middle school, and we start doing musicals. And the first musical we do is West Side Story. And Randy gets cast as the sexy, spicy Anita. And I am in the ensemble, which is code word for a loser. High school, Randy is a cheerleader at the football games. I'm a bleacher preacher. After the games, we go to the Dairy Queen and we hang out. And there's Randy. She's got her little green cheerleader skirt on with spray tan legs and bright white crew socks and bright white sneakers. And she's smoking her Marlboro Reds. And she's got guys all around her. And I'm over to the side with some friends, and I'm slurping a DQ Butterfinger Lizard. After high school, we lose touch. I go to the state school, I become a teacher, and Randy, I hear she's dropped out of college, and she moved to Hollywood. And she's singing and doing the life that I thought we were gonna do together, the life that I thought I was gonna have. And she's in a movie. So I go see the movie, and there she is. She's on the screen, and she's sitting around a campfire with 3 cute guys and 2 other girls, they're all couples, and she's playing the guitar and she's singing, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, the other girls are wearing like midriff tops and shorts, and Randy's wearing long pants and a blouse, and I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden I turn 12 years old. I'm like, she's gained weight since high school. I lost weight since high school. Meanwhile, I'm in the dark theater. But she's doing it, man. She's living the life. She's in Hollywood. She's singing. She's on the screen. 25 years later, I moved to Los Angeles. I'm gonna be like Randy. I want to see her. So we make a plan. I get in touch. We make a plan to meet. So now here I am at Chi-Chi's, Santa Monica. I'm waiting for Randy. And I'm a little nervous. I'm a little excited. In she walks, all confident. She's got long brown hair and bangs, just like she always did. And she's wearing a skirt suit and heels. Like, she looked like she just stepped out of an office cubicle, not a folk singer. And we start, and I say, and I smoke cigarettes now. So, hey, you want to go out and have a smoke? No, thanks, I'm quitting. Like, damn, I'm finally doing something she's doing, and she's not doing it anymore. We catch up. She stopped playing the guitar and singing, and she is now a financial planner. And she plays golf on the weekends. And she met a guy on one of her plane trips back east to visit her mother, and she's moving back east to be with this guy. I'm like, I'm finally here. I'm here in LA to do it, and she's moving back east. Financial planner? She wasn't good at math. Golf? She didn't play sports. I'm confused. I don't know what to say, so we talk, and evening's over, we go into the parking lot, we make a plan to meet, which I know is never gonna happen because she's moving back east. And then she gets in her green Mercedes, drives away. And I get into my little red rebuilt Honda, and I light that cigarette that I wanted to have. And I'm sitting there, and I'm disappointed. I mean, Randy was the electric guitar, the miniskirt, the leopard pom-pom. And now she's regular. Just like me, just regular. I mean, I always thought the grass was greener on her side, right? It was greener. And now, it's like she thinks the grass is greener on my side. And I'm thinking about it, and like, she's regular, I'm regular, my side of the grass, and maybe it's okay just to be who I am. Thank you. Yeah.
When I was pregnant with our third child, we did not want to know the gender. We already had 2 boys, and they were so different from each other. And we didn't want gender information to maybe make us think or make assumptions about who or what this new person was going to be. And why did I need to know that? But at 35, I was a geriatric mother. And they did amniocentesis, which, you know, is a gender test to look for birth defects, and also, by the way, they find out the gender. But I didn't care. It doesn't matter. Why do I need that information? What, so I know whether to paint the room pink or blue? So I know whether to buy pink clothes with ruffles or blue clothes with pictures of trucks. I didn't care about any of that stuff. When our oldest David was an infant, he wore a lot of pink. Because it was hand-me-down from his cousin Lisa. And my sister-in-law did care about those colors. So I got a lot of pink stuff. And I was out with him, and this woman looks into the stroller. He's a boy. Why is he wearing pink? I don't remember what I said. But later, when I got home, I thought about what I should have said. And what I should have said is, well, he's gay. But I didn't say it in the moment. But somehow, the family lore became that I did say it in the moment. And I have tried to correct them. I really have, to no avail. And so now I just take the credit, yes. So clever. But anyway, now here I am with this big belly and these 2 little boys. And whenever we're out, people look at us. Oh, trying for a girl, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And this just enraged me. Now, okay, I was pregnant and very hormonal. But even so, right? Because I was not trying for a girl. I wanted 3 kids, and I knew there was a 50-50 chance I was going to live in a home where the toilet seat was never down. trying to get something different, something better than them, and it happened all the time. Okay, I'm over it now. The birth. And the doctor gleefully announces, "It's a girl!" Because he knew all along. And it was killing him to not tell us. Because he assumed, like everybody else, that it's what we really want. He told us later that we are the only parents ever in his practice who said they didn't want to know the gender and didn't change their minds. And he said a lot of times, one parent calls, "Well, she still doesn't want to know, but I do." So. But no, we didn't want to know because it didn't matter. But we had a little girl, we named her Julie. I have a daughter. Okay, look, it wasn't the point of the exercise, but I have to admit, I was pretty tickled. I was. You know, the mother-daughter thing, it just can be so special. And Julie and I were so close. Growing up, she was this girly girl who would only wear dresses, but she was also scrappy and she wouldn't take shit from anybody. Great kid. When she was in 7th grade, I used to pick her up every Friday after school, and we would go get an early showing of whatever rom-com she wanted to see. And then we'd go and get Chinese food, and we'd go home and sit on the couch and eat the Chinese food and watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Boy Meets World. What a Friday night. Oh, God, I treasured those nights. I did because I knew the teenage years were coming. And I knew this could all just go south. But it didn't. No, we were close through high school and through college and after college. And then a few years ago, Julie came out to us as non-binary and asked us to use they, them pronouns. Woo! Okay. Okay. And over the next few years, Julie is on a journey, right? Self-exploration, figuring stuff out, and they kept us posted of what was going on. And I have to admit, I don't understand it. It's not my experience. I can't relate to it. But it's Julie's experience, and it's real, and it's valid.
Yeah.
And I'd be damned if I'm going to lose my child. This relationship I have with my child over pronouns? Well, Julie lives in Philadelphia now, and they have found a warm and welcoming group within the Philly trans community. They have friends, they're happy, so I'm happy. Turns out, I don't have a daughter. Okay, I have Julie. I love Julie because we were right in the first place. The gender doesn't matter.
Similar journey. All right, now we have Angela Sawyer.
Hi, very nice to meet you. My name's Angela. You can call me Glasses if you want. I won't get mad. I was a different kid, and not like cool different or they're gonna figure it out different. Like I was the did that kid kill somebody different. I was a really different kid. I'm sure you can tell. And I grew up in the 1970s. I was a kid in the 1970s. Thanks. I wasn't overlapped for that before. I was a kid in the 1970s, and I'm sure you know, at that time, the nicest thing you could do for your child, if you had a child at that time, was to force them to be outside at all moments. And I was not an outdoorsy person. I'm still not. I was a very indoorsy person. I liked books, and I liked vinyl records, and I liked my stuffed animals, and I liked pretending without talking to anybody. And none of those things were outside. But truthfully, I did okay. My parents were always like, you can't be indoors. If the sun is up, you are outside. And I didn't realize, like now, if your kid is outside, they're supervised. And at that time, there was 0 adult supervision. I didn't realize what a nice thing that was. And I actually did really well in that environment. Honestly, I was the queen of the neighborhood game, who can touch their butt to the electric fence the longest. Excellent game, excellent game. I will tell you how to play and how to win. It's very easy. You squint at your opponent so they know you mean it. And then you hold your butt on the electric fence, and then you grow up and tell adults that was your first vibrator. That's how it works. It works fine. I lost my status in the neighborhood when I was about 11, 12 because of a different game that we used to play around the neighborhood. All of us unsupervised kids, we would just hang out like in the dirt. I'll say this, to make it make sense, I grew up in Colorado. Colorado's a very nice place. It's very homogenous. Everybody is the same. Everybody looks the same. Everybody dresses the same. Everybody's even the same religion. It's called hiking. And growing up there, we lived just outside of the nuclear power plant. If you remember, it was the nuclear power plant that was in the movie War Games, so we thought it was real cool. And if you have a nuclear power plant near you, there's land that nobody can buy because it's dangerous. And then there's land that's very inexpensive. That's where we lived. And we lived in a little like dirt U-turn right off the highway that led to the nuclear power plant. And everyone on that little dirt U-turn had dirt yards because grass did not grow well there. And also all the houses faced away from the power plant. And we used to play a game called Connie's House because Connie's house was different than every house in the neighborhood. Connie's parents, for whatever reason, built a brand new house facing towards the nuclear power plant. And then they put fake grass all around the house. So it was bright green. It never turned yellow like everyone else's grass. And they had to replace, they tried real grass a couple times, but they kept having to replace it. So they just put AstroTurf in. So it was a very different house. And Connie's front yard was everybody else's backyard. And the strangest thing about Connie's yard, I don't know for what reason, because I was a kid, for whatever reason, I think someone had tried to install a pool in the yard at one point, and maybe they never finished it. Because there was this big rectangle, like super big rectangle, of missing earth in Connie's yard. And for reasons that I will never understand, Connie's parents decided to install several German shepherds inside that missing earth, which is a weird thing to do. But as kids, we were like, that's very dangerous. We should go there now. So our game, Connie's House, was just to walk around the outside of the missing earth, where the German shepherds, who thought we were there to see them, and in some ways we were, but they thought we'd come there to be their friends. So they would try and jump out of the big rectangle of missing earth and get us, and we would be very scared, and we would walk around the edge. And then we'd go back to the electric fence. When you're a kid, the things that you're afraid of are very different. You know, the things that you think are the worst things that could ever happen to you aren't the same scale as adult things. You know, when I was a kid, I thought the worst thing that could happen to me is that one of those dogs would touch me. And later I grew up and I found out what sex was because of that electric fence, and that's very different. So one day, the obvious worst thing happened. I fell in. Yeah. We were walking around, one of the dogs jumped up, I fell in. And the dogs thought that they had made a brand new best friend. They were thrilled. I thought that Satan's minions were coming to take my face. I was terrified. So I fell in and I learned immediately that the phrase, getting the wind knocked out of you, is not just a phrase. So I'm wheezing. I was a very fat kid, so I look like a tomato already. I'm wheezing, I'm turning bright red, I'm very scared, and here come a bunch of dogs. And my friends, they did what all kids do, they ran away. So I'm freaking out, I clamber, I lose all sense of time. I clamber out of the weird missing earth hole, and I run just in a direction. And I end up, because Connie's house has the backyard in front and the front yard in back, I end up, before I can even think, standing in the middle of the street. And as I'm there, just like in shock, the bus comes down, the school bus comes down the middle of the street. The school bus driver in that part of town was a weird guy. He was my kind of weird guy. He's a guy that if we had been the same age, like if I met a guy that weird now, I would date him immediately. School bus drivers, as a rule, guys who look at the professions of taxi driving and truck driving and they're like, too fancy. The school bus driver in our town was a guy who I never saw wear shoes. He was a guy who, he lived at one end of the little cul-de-sac, and he lived there without a wife and with a couple of small kids, and he ran what we called the store, which was a place in the front of his house that sold milk from goats and candy necklaces for children, and that's all. So he was a weird guy. But you know, I was a weird kid, and so I think every weird kid has had this experience. I had the experience many times of meeting an adult and having them see me and really see me and then leave. I had scared my fair share of adults as a kid. So when the bus driver came up, he pulled up in front of me, and I did not know what was going to happen. And then he opened the door of the bus, and I was like, oh, this guy knows where I live, and he saved me from this dog adventure, and he can take me to my house. And like, I just had a bad time. I get to go indoors today. So I get up onto the bus, and he closes the bus door, and that's when I realized that my worst fear, my real childhood worst fear, had come true. Because he closed the door of the bus, and that's when I realized I had dog shit all over my bed. And the smell hit me, and then I saw it hit him, and then I turned and watched it hit each row of a full bus, just one at a time. And I looked at it and I thought, I'm going to get to be indoors all week. And that's my story.
that you're never the same after. You're never the same person. Like, you changed. And this is a story about one of those nights. It was a hot summer night in Miami. I was home from college for the summer. I was going to NYU, where I also wanted to study theater. My parents also told me no. But there's Act 3 is going on right now, and I'm doing theater now, so I'm very happy about that. And I'm loving Act 3. I don't know, like, you know, there's a lot of great things about it. It's an empty nester. Anyway, I was doing one of the things I love to do, which is sitting by in my favorite armchair, reading a book, in my mother's house. And I heard a noise, like a squirrely sound, like, you know, and there's lots of squirrels and raccoons, and we had tons of animals running around everywhere. We had geckos running around in our house, which are a good thing because they eat bugs. And then, of course, there were the flying roaches, and they always aim at your face for some reason. You open a blind and whoo, they come at your face. So I was like, okay, it's one of the many wildlife out there in the yard or something. And then it happened again, and I thought, oh, it's my cat, Anais, named after our favorite author, one of our favorite authors, Anais Sitnin, stuck between the wooden the wooden shutters and the screen. And so I opened the wooden shutters and I looked outside and there was nothing there. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. It's a raccoon. And then I looked up about a minute later, and there was a naked man in our supposedly locked courtyard, which was about here and where that camera is. It was real close. And all that was between us was a sliding glass door. If you know anything about sliding glass doors, they're not much protection. And he had no clothes on except for a white t-shirt, which he had pulled over his face. He was a young, tall guy with blonde hair, and he was masturbating at me. And I obviously screamed, and thank God my mom was home. I screamed, I ran upstairs, we locked the door. We were like, is this guy gonna rape us, kill us? Like, he got in a locked courtyard. You know, this is not just some pervert at the bus bench, which had also happened to me and my girlfriend. We were waiting for a bus, and some guy pulled up opposite us and started doing that. And my friend was so smart, 13 years old, got up on the bus bench and started screaming, everybody look at this guy! She's brilliant. I was like, what would Kim do? Her name was Kim also. So we called 911, of course. I've never been so happy in my life to see the blue and red sirens of a cop car pull up. But we had a problem in that neither one of us were leaving that room because we didn't know where he was, and the cops weren't going to break down the windows because it wasn't like, unless they had to, they thought we were being hurt. Luckily, my mother's boyfriend, Bill, came with his shotgun. And so he opened the door, let the cops in. Just talking about it, I'm shaking. And the weird thing is that I had grown up in South Florida after the Cocaine Cowboys. There was, one of the girls from our school disappeared after school, still not found to this day during junior high. I mean, people were, assaulted, robbed, killed at the Dadeland Mall. It was a crazy, we had the #1 murder rate in the nation when I moved to New York to go to NYU. So I'm still surprised how much this affected me because he never laid hands on me. But anyway, so the police came in and they're like, this kind of stuff is usually premeditated. I'm like, thanks a lot. And they're like, did you notice anything? I'm like, it's a locked community, it's a gated community. Obviously anyone could walk in, but it's got some sort of security. And they're like, you didn't notice anything? You didn't notice, anybody standing outside or cars driving by? I'm like, no. So then I started getting really nervous that he lived there. And the police kept asking me questions as if I should know. And, the only thing I could think of, the way your mind works when you're 20-something is, I'd been coming home late from the clubs, and, the other night I'd come home, usually 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and I had like this one red micro mini go-go dress with cutouts that I would wear with the matching go-go ball earrings. And the only thing I could think of is, maybe he got the wrong idea. And another thing I used to do, which was of course not, this is, as my daughters would call it, slut-shaming, that's ridiculous. But another thing I would do, which I love to do at like 2, 3 in the morning after coming home from the clubs, is I would go swimming in the community pool. I learned to swim at 4. I was a certified scuba diver. And the water, I actually felt safer under the water than above in Miami. I had swam with sharks, 110 feet down, and I wasn't afraid because our scuba diver teacher, who was been doing this his whole life, said, they have no interest in you. They're not here for you. I had swam with barracudas. There was a bridge near our house. We lived near the water in Coconut Grove, and we used to go dive off the bridge because you're a kid and you're not afraid, and like head first. I'm like, what was I thinking? And sometimes feet first. And there were barracudas, and we knew it. And one day I was swimming with my eyes open, and the barracuda was right there. And you know how fish eyes always look like they're looking right at you? And I was like, oh my God, and you see those teeth and those eyes, and I had some rings on, which is a no-no, you're supposed to take off anything shiny. And I put my hands behind my back, and I just made like a very boring fish or something, and it swam away. And I look back at that 17-year-old who had no fear, and I wish I could be, and it's like, am I related to this person? Like, you know, like how life changes. And it's funny how, you know, sometimes you think the most dangerous things turn out not to be so scary. And the simple things like reading a book or walking down a dark street at night or being the only person in a parking garage become terrifying. So the police said to me, so what was terrifying for me was that this guy had planned it. Unlike those barracudas and sharks who really didn't have any interest in me, he had planned it. They would, you know, he was, and God knows if he was going to come back. The very next day I moved out, went back to my dad's house. I just couldn't fathom being there alone. But I'm going ahead of myself. So as soon as they left, my mother said, you know, I told you, don't leave the windows open at night. You should have locked the gate. You should have locked the gate. You should have kept the lights on outside. You should have done this. And I screamed back at her and I said, yeah, Mom, I know the rules. Lock the courtyard at night. Lock the gate. Lock the door. Lock it. Lock yourself up. Lock yourself in. Shut the curtains. Shut the door. Shut the blinds. Shut yourself in. Don't go jogging early in the dark. Don't jog in the middle of the street. Don't go to the beach at night. Look over your shoulder. Look behind you. Have eyes in the back of your head. Look them in the eyes. Don't look them in the eyes. Look away. Look down. Look sideways. Cross the street. Don't wear the sparkly red mini dress. Don't wear red lips. Don't wear red. Don't wear too much makeup. You might give them the wrong idea. Don't stand out. Don't sparkle. Don't go swimming late at night like you are free, like you are some mermaid or a butterfly who can go where they want. Because you can't. You cannot. Don't let them see you. Don't let them get you. Don't let them. Don't let? I didn't let him, Mom, I said. It wasn't my fault. He did it anyway. One of the last things the police said before they left was, don't let the bushes grow so dark near your window without lights that someone can hang out there, because he may have been doing this for a couple nights before. So, the moral of the story is, get lights.
To meet the Beatles. And everyone else at my party, it was an unspoken wish, because you don't say what your wish is. Every person there, their wish at their Sweet 16 was to meet the Beatles. So, the way it was in my house, very strict upbringing. My father walked in at 6 o'clock at night. My mother had the grapefruit, it had sections, it had a cherry on top. We had like meatloaf, potatoes, a vegetable, and a drink. Everything was structured. I went in my room after school, no music. My friends weren't allowed to wait for me to finish my homework. I had to just go in my room. And that's the way I grew up. So, that has to do with the story. Everything in my life was the Beatles then. And everybody in homeroom and lunchtime and study hall, we had our magazines, our Beatle Band-Aids, our articles about the Beatles. We just knew everything, and all we cared about was the Beatles. How did I find out about them? I used to babysit. And I don't know about you, but when you babysit, you get paid to stay awake all night, even though the kids have been in bed for hours. And I remember falling asleep, waking up, and the Jack Parr show was on. That was before Johnny Carson, for those youngsters. And I was asleep, awake, and he had a newsreel of the Beatles in England getting jelly beans thrown at them. They're mopped up, they're going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just forgot all about it. I was lucky to stay awake when they walked in the house. So then, that's how I first saw the Beatles. Then Ed Sullivan Show. And 1964, there they were in America. So, I didn't care about school. Even though I was from the strict household, my brother went to Emerson, my other brother went to Brandeis. I lived in a very educationally focused environment, but not me. All I wanted to do was meet the Beatles. So a lot of the people in school were planning to go to Hofstra, I'm from Long Island, Hofstra, Delphi, or go away to school, not me. If I went to school in Manhattan or Brooklyn, if the Beatles came to town, that's what my life was about. So I didn't go to Brooklyn College. I went to LIU with my 76 average because in Mr. Winstanley's literature class, English literature, they're reading Shakespeare. I'm turning to the page of the London map because that fascinated me. So one day, and I had a best friend named Jude, like the song Hey Jude. One day, there it was, the Daily News, an article this big. Paul and John are coming to New York to announce this company called Apple, and they're going to be on the Tonight Show. There we were, going to the Hotel St. Regis, sneaking in, getting thrown out. We packed a salami sandwich, fried bread, mustard, 2 sandwiches, snuck out of the house. Now remember how strict my house was, and I was in college by then. Oh. And I had a final, it was May 1968. You can do the math how old I am. So it doesn't matter, you can figure it out. So anyway, we go to the St. Regis, and there's a linen closet, and you might be wondering, how did you know where to go, what floor to go to? When you're a Beatle person of my stature, 17 and a half, no internet, thank you. We snooped around and investigated, and we had some Beatle friends who I'm still friends with now, as you can imagine. So, there we were in the linen closet, hiding early in the morning. One thing I didn't tell you about the linen closet, it was half a linen closet. The 2 of us, we ate our sandwiches by 10 o'clock in the morning. And we got thrown out, as I said. Well, then it was getting dark. And we saw Beatle people walking down the hallway. Now you could say, how did you know who Beatle people were? The people who were their managers, their press, blah, blah, blah. All that, their road managers. We recognized them because we were Beatle fanatics. So we said, when are John and Paul, it was just John and Paul for this Apple thing on Johnny Carson. When are they, where are they? They're not staying here. But if you stay with us tonight, we'll tell you where they will be early in the morning. So I'm here to live to tell about it. I'll say nothing happened, but we packed, I didn't tell you this, besides the salami sandwich, we packed a little, our pajamas, and remember how strict my house was? My parents didn't know where I was. If that were today, Amber Alert and all that. So, and I missed my English final. I never missed a day of college. I wasn't good enough of a student to miss a day of college at LIU. I missed that English final. So anyway, we go in the bathroom to brush our teeth and get ready for bed. We're so naive. And you know, people my age at the time were getting married, they were going to college, they were having babies, everything. The prom, nothing. All I cared about was the Beatles. So, one of them, I won't say where, it doesn't matter, they're producers of the movie Yellow Submarine now, you know. They open the bathroom door, say, your first big momentous occasion in life is meeting the Beatles. You are now going to be heading for your second one. Oh, and he shuts the door, and you know, like the Three Stooges when they go, woo! So we look at each other like, ah! So we survived it, I'll say that. Nothing happened. And that morning, they said they're staying at their lawyer's house. These are the fact checkers, right? Their lawyer's house, Nat Rice's house, apartment, and they're gonna walk out of there at 11:30 and they're gonna walk through Central Park. So, the one thing I forgot to say at the beginning of the story is, I believe your dreams could come true. So, we found this apartment building. I'm not like in New York, I don't know where I'm going, but we found it, and they walk out, and there's John, and I had dreamt that he was bigger than life, but he was just regular, and Paul was beautiful. He's wearing a green and blue jacket that would, in those days, it would show up on any street. You'd notice this jacket, and Paul is amazing to look at. So they start walking through Central Park, and we go with them. And they were with two people. They were with Magic Alex, their electronic engineer, and their manager, Neil Aspinwall. And all of us are just walking through Central Park, and people didn't necessarily notice it was them, except for two young men. And then we took a picture at the Hans Christian Andersen statue, and then we, instead of us being like ogling fans, we were like friends. We said, by the way, the show's going to be preempted because it's time for the pre-elections back in May, and your show's going to be preempted. And John says to Paul, then we're not going to go. We're not going on TV. And I went, oh my God, I just got them to say they're not going to go on Johnny Carson. But they did, they went. And then that summer, I went to England, and Yoko was on the scene. And John saw me. Paul lives in a house near Abbey Road. So I saw him, and John was really nice, and he introduced me to Yoko, and here's what she said: how did you know where we'd be? And I said, I was in my bedroom in 10th grade in Elmont, New York, and I knew where John was every day. Do you think when I'm standing right here on Abbey Road, I'm not going to know where John, crazy. But the moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, your dreams could come true because mine did.
Something more than not thin enough, not tall enough, not pretty enough. I felt for the first time in my life that I could be powerful. That feeling has stayed with me for decades. It is a defining shift in my life, and I will be forever grateful for it. But in between the kicking and the punching and the room full of loud, fierce women finally getting permission to be as loud and fierce as we knew that we were told how dumb women are. We wear short skirts, we leave our drinks unattended, we walk around with headphones, we park our cars too far away from the mall, we go shopping and we buy too much. So we're weighed down by heavy grocery bags, and any attacker could just come up behind us. Now, I was a feminist. I could not watch 30 minutes of TV without challenging half of what I saw. If the men in my family ever sat at the dining room table while the women got up to clean up, I was the first one getting them up. But something about safety and violence felt like too much of an emergency for my little challenges. Something about the authoritative tone they took and the warm encouragement marbled so tightly with dismissiveness that I could not separate them, kept me from what I knew was true. I worked in a domestic violence crisis center. Half of the women I knew had experienced sexual assault from someone they knew, a family member, an ex, a person they thought was a friend. I didn't know anyone who had been assaulted in a dark parking lot at 5 p.m. with too many grocery bags. But somehow, I didn't feel like I could challenge them, and I wanted to become some very nebulous, very vague version of street smart so that I could please them. Now, I'm not that person anymore, but the kind of coercive control coupled with care and encouragement that I experienced is around still to this day. You cannot go on TikTok and type any word like safety or women into any search engine and not find it. There's the guy that tells you not to wear a ponytail because an attacker could grab it. There's the guy that tells you not to park near a white van. The NRA tells you not to do laundry too early or too late, or go to the bathroom alone. They also tell women that if they are alone and somebody comes to the door, we should pretend that the man of the house is busy but home. What I have realized, like others have said just 2 people ago, is that there was a way that I was taught to be safe, and there was a way that I was taught to be smart, and the way to be smart was not thinking or reasoning. The way to be smart was complying and following. So, luckily, I learned, I grew, I kept being a feminist and never became an ultimate fighting champion. And luckily, the more I grew and the more I learned, the more I realized that the kind of self-defense that tells me that I'm dumb and wrong is not the only way that I can feel powerful in my body. There is a long and varied and storied tradition of self-defense in the feminist movement, also true of the Black liberation movement. There are generations of activists and advocates who realize that in order to change the world, people who are targeted for violence need something we can use in the moment. And what I learned was that safety was not achieved through compliance. It was achieved through resistance.
Yeah.
So I took a self-defense class in my late 20s, and it was a much more empowering experience. And the reason why it was so empowering was because the most central message that I got from the people who taught that class was this: I am not the problem. I am not the problem. The fact that I live in a world where I have a 1 in 4 chance of being targeted for sexual violence, that world is the problem. So what I should have is not burdens or blame, but options. How can I find the strength in my body? How can I use strong parts of me against weak parts of a person who is trying to hurt me? And I realized from that experience of learning to protect my body that I can be scared and powerful at the same time. That even if I am crying, it doesn't matter. You know, my body is not electrical. It won't short circuit if I cry. Turns out you can hit and kick and cry at the same time, and the crying helps you hit harder.
Yeah.
And I had the experience of fighting off a man who was dressed in protective padding with full consent, who outweighed me by probably 100 pounds. And I did it. I hit, I kicked, I struck, I yelled, and I felt my own power. And I felt my own strength. or flaky or all of the other things that I had been taught and that women have been given the messages so many times. Because you see, I always believed that nobody should touch me without my choice or my permission. And I always believed that sexism was wrong. But after I saw the power of my own body, not only did I believe it, I also embodied it. And I realized that what was actually smart was being able to speak truth to power. And being able to speak truth to power, knowing my own strength. Thank you.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm Linda Marcus Smith, and I want you to know that I'm 74 years old. Or young, whatever you choose to say. I'm 74 years young, and I am so glad to be in this moment. And you should be glad too. Because if you knew me before today, in my life before, you probably will walk right past me or not like me. And here's why. Now it's going to get real and it's going to get dark. So just, are you ready for the truth?
Yeah.
You can handle it, as I say? Okay. I was born into a family of Holocaust survivors. It's true. They came through the Holocaust, they made it out, so it's a good story. But the problem was they were very damaged from what they went through. So they had nothing to give to us children. I have a sister and a twin brother. So my entire life growing up, I was very empty. I was in the negative. My life was overdrawn all the time because I didn't get anything given to me. You know, they didn't have space to show me love or time or nurture me or even tell me bedtime stories. You know, the bedtime stories I got were of the Holocaust. You know, talk about grim fairy tales. Thanks a lot, Dad. But anyway, so I grew up feeling unloved. And then one of my parents told me that the other parent never wanted us. It's true. It's just how life was handed to me. But it turned out that I internalized that for so long, and it made all my choices for me throughout my whole life. You can tell I'm almost on tears sharing this because everything that I had went through was a negative. And so in my life, I started, you know, acting out and playing out from a space of nothingness. Does that even resonate with you? Do you understand what I'm saying? So the things I did were mistakes. You know, I was not given anything. I bore a child named Lisa, and I gave her everything. Everything. I had nothing extra to give her. I never said no to the child because I hadn't been given nothing. I was like a sister to her, right? So I made all these kind of mistakes. And, you know, there came a point, and this is a good story now, because there came a point in my life through a thing called, a program called Landmark, and friends like Helaine Witt, yeah, that's right, who listened to my pain for hours. I would go on for hours about what I didn't have in my life, what I had not been given, and all the mistakes I made, and the emptiness, and how people were attracted away from me instead of to me, right? And I finally had shared enough of all of that to where I got tired of talking about it. And there was that one defining moment where I said to myself, you know what? I wonder what would happen if I, Linda Marcus Smith, went back to the little child before all the pain. What could possibly be? What could go wrong? What could be worse? So I went back and I put myself in the position of that little girl before all the pain happened to me. And it was magical. I was living through that person for just a few moments, and then I didn't want to come out of that because I realized there was a wonderful person who deserved happiness, who deserved to make the right choices, to have people be close to you and love you. And that's who I am today. And now, because of the fact that I went through all of this terrible mishigas, trouble in my life, that I had no control over getting, it was just handed to me like on a silver platter. Because I became the little girl, now my life is about helping other people who are military veterans. So I do comedy, not because it's funny. It just happens. I want to help heal military veterans because I know they've been through a lot, and I would like to see them go back to the little child before all their pain. So I'm very happy because of all of this for this moment, and that's my story.
I was 10 years old when my great-grandmother died. And after the funeral, we all went to when my Abuela, my great-grandmother died. And after the funeral, we all went to my Abuela's house, my grandmother's house, to mourn. They don't make apartments like this anymore. 6 sprawling rooms in Washington Heights with French doors, molding, and a functional dumbwaiter that kids used to ride up and down until they sealed it. And as always, the kitchen table had been brought into the living room, and on it held enough food to feed the entire neighborhood. There were calderos, there were pots of arroz con gandules, there was a whole pernil, there was a turkey, there were plantains cooked 3 ways, tostones, maduros, and my favorite, you mash them and you make like a Puerto Rican lasagna that's called pilon. Oh my God, it was so good. And my family went in, they loaded their plates and they sat down to eat. But for once, I wasn't hungry. And I was a chubby kid that was always freaking hungry. But there was just something not right. And I wandered off. There was this long, dark hallway that connected the front of the apartment with the living room, kitchen area to the bedrooms in the back. And I'm going through this hallway, and I see the 3 photographs that were hanging there. One was of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The other one was an old president, John F. Kennedy. And the other one was a blonde, blue-eyed, long-haired Jesus. At first I wondered why every single house that I had ever been to had the same 3 pictures. And then I stand in front of Jesus. He looked like a hippie. I had been told to stay away from hippies because they were dirty and they were on drugs. Now, I may only have been 10 years old, but I knew what drugs were. Drugs were what made people in your family not come home anymore. And they were never spoken of again. So I jumped up and I tried to knock Jesus off the wall. But he was above my reach. And then I heard slippery footsteps behind me, and it was my Abuela. She had noticed that I wasn't eating, I guess, and she went to look for me. And she went up to adjust the picture of Jesus that I never touched, and she took me by the hand, and she went to her bedroom. And I loved that bedroom. There was this chenille bedspread. It was like this lilac
she had this dressing table with a mirror, and it always smelled like Jergens hand lotion and Shalimar perfume and Tigress perfume. And she had me sit on the bed, on the chenille bedspread, and then she reaches up. She was very small. She was like maybe like 4 foot 10, 11. So she gets a stool and she reaches up this closet, and she brings this cardboard book down. I'm telling you what is in here. But she opens it up, and it's a photo album of all these really, really old pictures. And she's taking pictures out, and she's handing them to me, and I'm supposed to know who these people are. And then she hands another one to me, and it looks kind of familiar. There's a woman with a flower in her hair that kind of looks like my Abuela, but like young. And there's another woman that's sitting in a chair with a very straight back and a stern face, and she's just like looking at you like she knows everything that you're about. And then there's a little girl with tight braids standing next to them. And my grandmother says to me, "Do you know these people?" And I'm like, no, who are they? And my grandmother points to the woman with the flower in the hair and says, "This is me." She points to the little girl with the braids and says, "This is your mother." And then she points to the woman in the chair and she goes, "And this is my mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother." And then I snatched that photograph because I'm like, what? This woman looked nothing like that thing that I had saw in the hospital. A thing with sparse hair and long, bony fingers that were like claws, and it was like trying to grab you and you could never get out. It was scary. And then she would try to bring your face there and look at you, but she couldn't see. She was blind. She had glaucoma. So her eyes looked like they had like clouds in front of them. And I used to hate going to go see her. But you had to, because you're a kid. You got to do what they want you to do. But this woman did not look like that. This woman had skin the color of a cinnamon stick. She had long hair down to her waist. Her eyes were clear. Her hands were long and smooth. Her face was glowing. She looked like a princess or a priestess. And then I handed the photograph back to my grandmother, and I go over to the bureau, and I look at my face. I look at my pale, yellowish, kind of beigey skin and my halo of frizzy orange curls. And I turn around and I say, "Abuela, ¿por qué?" Because my Spanish is terrible, because it just is. Women of my generation, the parents would speak English only in the house because they didn't want you to have the discrimination that they had in school, but there was no such thing as bilingual education and stuff like that then. So, okay, my name is Michele and my brother's name is Kevin, so there you go. So I go, "Abuela, ¿por qué yo no look like the familia?" And she goes, "No, Michele, pero you do. Tú parece, you look like a, ¿cómo se dice en inglés? De madre de esposo, mother of husband. Ella tiene pelo rojo también," and then she just keeps going on and on and on and on in Spanish, and it doesn't matter because I had stopped listening. I didn't understand her. And I didn't believe her anyway. And a couple of weeks later, my family went to New York City's Puerto Rican Day Parade. And I had never before or remembered going there on this day where Fifth Avenue was lined for like over a mile with tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of black, brown, and beige pride behind the police things, crammed in, cabeza to cabeza, head to head, hombro to hombro, shoulder to shoulder, nalgas to nalgas, swaying hips to swaying hips, going, "Wepa, Boricua, eso es nuestra día. We are Puerto Rican, and this is our day." Everybody that is, except me. Because I had somehow become lost from all the men wearing suits or guanabera, like the traditional shirt with the embroidery on it, and straw hats, and they look at me and they say, "Ay, pobrecita, you poor thing. Tiene hambre? Are you hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was always hungry. I was a chubby kid." And I was like, "Yes, see." One of the ladies goes she goes away, and then they bring me a chair, and they say, "No te preocupes, don't worry, and sit down. Somebody will come." So one of the pretty ladies comes back, and she hands me a hot dog and a sundae. I don't know if anybody remembers sundae, but it was like,
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I can't wait to hug you. You don't understand, she's a celebrity among comics. It's an honor to be able to perform. I have 34 years of working for the MTA. I work in the token booth. I'm one of the nice ones. I have to say that, but look at my face. I get you lost on purpose. I look so innocent, don't I? I love the tourists because I sell them maps for $5. They don't know. I take the part off that says free. I love it. And the tourists, they want to see 42nd Street. They want to see the landmarks. No. You're going to Pelham Bay, okay? I need them to see the real New York, okay? The Tuba Flatbush. Oh, yeah, stay on that. I love the opportunity that I get to meet so many people working for the MTA. I love it. I'm single, too. And so I meet a lot of men. I'm picky, though. I like the men that buy the 7 or 30-day unlimited. Yes, ladies, that means he has a job for 7 or 30 days. We don't know. Because the guys that buy the round trip, they're going to the parole officer and back home. You know that. And at this moment, most of them don't even pay. I see it. They go through the gate. I don't care. Because you know what? I'm playing Candy Crush. I usually lower my seat down so nobody sees me. Because that's what it felt like. Right? All the years I've been in transit, nobody comes and says anything to me. Unless they met your card or their token.
I say hi.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But most people don't. I'm invisible until there's a need. And it used to bother me because this one lady, this one old white lady with blue eyes, I remember her. She just used to walk right by the bar and just pierce at me with this disdain. This was like 2006, and I remember, bitch. I am somebody. I got a college degree. I do stand-up comedy. I produce shows, and I just started writing. And then I decided I'm gonna do a solo show because this bitch don't know me. I created Swipe This, My Life in Transit. Yeah. And one of the things that I found out is transit don't tell us everything. As a station agent, or when I came out, it was railroad clerk. I was a railroad clerk. 1996, on the 1 and 9, the first time this guy took his dick out. Oh. I was terrified. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And I also started comedy that year as well. The comedian in me couldn't let it go. I just like, hey, you, with your dick out. Move a little closer so I can see you better. And he took off running, and I'm like, yes, I won. Right? Because that's what you want. You want to win. And I won. But guess who showed up the next night? And the next night. And the next night. And we dated. Okay, it's all right. I told you I've been single a long time. So at that same time, I was in college getting my degree in psychology. That semester was sexual deviant behavior course. You can't make this up. That's how you know the universe provides the material. I go to class, I'm like, Professor, there's a guy taking his dick out every night. What do I do? She said, get an A on your paper. She gave me a list of questions to ask him if he happened to show up again. And he did. And I'm like, hey, listen, why are you doing this? into a voyeur, all right? All right, that's all I do is watch people, all right? So, after that session, I went back to class. I need to let y'all know I got an A+ on my paper. I graduated magna cum laude. And if there's any couples in here tonight, I am going for a PhD. So I need your couples to take your dicks out. If you're in a relationship, sir, I see you too. You're a little older, but just do it anyway. I need the data, all right? I need to know if it still works. But there's a level of intimacy that I experienced with this young man, Tyrone, right? That, you know, if you're in a relationship, you don't know, right? Because you have to be vulnerable. Tyrone was vulnerable. He was a freak. Freaks come out at night. What I found for me when Tyrone saw me, even though it was in a sexual kind, first of all, he was level 1 sex offender, okay? So that means he goes no higher than that. He just liked the thrill of being caught. And he caught me. Looking, because that's what I love. I mean, there's such a joy. I mean, I don't know if you ladies do it. You ever pleasure yourself and look in the mirror? I mean, it's a beautiful sight. But men, I know a lot of y'all do it. I just don't like to say you do it. But do it for your partner. It's a different kind of intimacy. You become closer together. At least you should. You should. And for that experiment, I realized going through the 34 years of transit, people still just keep it moving. They keep it moving. Transit is a system where people just travel, and I sit there and wonder, where are they going? I'm stuck. I'm stuck in the booth. That's part of the story. I'm stuck. I'm isolated. People don't speak to me, and it just feels weird that I'm part of your community. You see me every fucking day, right? When your Metro card don't work, you come to me. It's like, oh, I left my wallet at home. You want me to buzz you in? I am your community. I see you every day. If you go to a station and you say hi, that's your community. Be comfortable with your